Why is Africa so poor? Going back a little to the 1970s, several African nations had GDPs comparable to those of Asian nations following their exploitation by colonialists and devastating wars. In about 30 to 40 years, Africa lagged far behind as Asia flourished. Many African nations, particularly those in the sub-Saharan area, continue to live in extreme poverty to this day. The primary causes of Africa's extreme poverty are as follows. 1. Injustices in history. Africa was colonized by numerous nations in the past, which meant that its resources were exploited for the advantage of other nations. This led to issues since it made Africans less fortunate, poorer, and less educated, among other reasons. 2. Poor management. Africa has historically been ruled by autocrats who have taken advantage of their nations in various ways. To make money illegally, they have gotten involved in the drug and weapon trades. The majority of African governments get funding from other nations in the form of foreign aid, but there is a problem with this because occasionally the leaders misappropriate or misuse the funds for personal benefit. Poor governance is frequently associated with corruption, which is called a disease. Corruption is an issue in Africa as well. This is due to the fact that elected officials have been bought off to do things like alter legislation or create infrastructure in order to profit themselves. 3. Education deficit. Because they have not received a proper education, a large number of individuals in Africa live in poverty. Youths quitting school early to work to support their families is a concern. However, occasionally the youngsters leave school since some of them can't afford basic necessities like books or pencils. Additionally, some nations' educational systems fall short because certain teachers lack the necessary qualifications or training. 4. Economic growth and a job shortage. The lack of lucrative jobs in Africa is another factor contributing to its poverty. Because the economies of many African nations are small, there aren't many job prospects. 5. Insufficient facilities. The poverty of Africans is also a result of inadequate infrastructure. Obtaining assistance or foreign investment might be difficult for humanitarian workers. This is a result of the excessively hazardous roadways. Some nations hardly have any paved roads at all. 6. Conflicts and war. There are a good number of wars in Africa that result in homelessness and displacement of people. There are disputes against the government, ethnic conflicts, and tribal civil wars. Everywhere on Earth where there is conflict is inevitably impoverished. While many battles take place behind closed doors and escape media attention, these clashes frequently make headlines and are written about. Families frequently flee their homes due to conflict or violence, which exacerbates poverty in Africa. 7. Inequitable trade agreements. Africa's unfair commercial relations with other nations are another factor contributing to its poverty. Wealthy nations are sending money to impoverished African nations so they can make enormous profits at the expense of the local economies. Due to its reliance on exports, Africa's economy is susceptible to changes in the world economy. 8. Medical issues. AIDS is a major issue in Africa, where it has killed a lot of people recently. Access to quality health care is particularly difficult in Africa's rural communities. Many people living in poverty find it difficult to access health care due to a severe shortage of physicians and medical facilities. 9. Poor economic structure. There are certain African nations without economies of scale. Either their expenses are too high for them to compete in the global market, or they are unable to manufacture enough items for export. 10. Insufficient infrastructure for agriculture. The absence of agricultural infrastructure is one of the primary causes of Africa's poverty. Despite making up 20% of the planet's territory, Africa only exports 1% of its fruit and 4% of its vegetables for commercial use. Africa has the capacity to produce enormous amounts of grains, fruit, and vegetables, but at the moment, insufficient roads make this impossible. In summary, a variety of factors, such as a lack of economic and educational resources, conflicts, and crises, lead to the poverty of Africans. People's lives become challenging when all of these elements come together. Even though Africa is a poor continent, many young Africans are looking for ways to improve their lot in life. The goal of numerous youth movements, human rights groups, and charitable organizations is to make life better for those living in poverty in Africa. Some of these organizations are committed to supporting communities in need with sustainable food sources or clean water, enabling children to attend school by providing supplies and uniforms, and teaching people skills so they may work and make money. Foreign aid has historically been a major source of funding for many African governments, but as young Africans band together to attain self-sufficiency, this is quickly changing. Hopefully, as the next generation grows up, Africa will be a better continent with less poverty and more opportunities. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe for more educative videos like this one.